Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Friday session for careers sponsored by the CARICOM Girls in ICT Partnership. We are delighted to have you here with us today. My name is Jennifer Britton, and I'm the focal point for the CARICOM Girls in ICT Partnership. The theme of this series for 2023 is empowering young women in the digital age, and through it, we hope to really allow students, learners, everyone interested in career development to explore some careers with us, ask questions, use it as food for thought as we move forward in building out the CARICOM digital economy. The underlying reason is the fact that women continue to be underrepresented in STEM-related fields globally, and we are still checking our CARICOM numbers, but we still think it is worthwhile to have this series in 2023 so that we can move the discussions forward and possibly into policy around how we would ensure that CARICOM has enough women in STEM to do what it wants to do between now and 2030 and beyond. We are going to be shepherded today by one of our partners in the steering committee, Ms. Jeanette Clacken. I won't take too much more of your time, but I just want to introduce Jeanette a bit. Jeanette is, just give me 1 second. Jeanette is currently an instructional designer and educational technologist serving at the Caribbean Examinations Council. She has been serving and giving input to the education sector in her home country of Jamaica for over 25 years. She is currently a doctoral candidate specializing in education, technology, and design. So you know that you're in good hands. And as I've said before, she is a constant supportive part of the steering committee of the Girls in ICT Partnership. So without further ado, I turn you over to Jeanette Clacken, who will be our moderator today and take us through the 1-hour session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jeanette.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It is my pleasure serving you this morning and moderating this wonderful session, CARICOM Girls in ICT Partnership, STEM STEAM Career. And this is part of our webinar series, and we look forward to seeing more of you joining in. So if you have your friends, colleagues, other girls, just invite them on and let us have a wonderful time. Today we are trying to keep it very simple. We have two main presentations for you, a video presentation on STEM, what is STEM, and then of course our main presenter will share with us Dr. Letitia Addison, and she will speak to us this morning or this afternoon on breaking barriers in STEM fields. And I'm sure you are looking forward to that engagement. We would have ensured that you are just even a little bit oriented into the matter of STEM for girls. And without any further ado, because we know you will have an opportunity to ask questions and get responses, so we want to maximize the time. So I'm going to turn over to our support who is going to take us into that look at the video. All right, so welcome and let's go.
STEM is a topic that's coming up more and more often in the world of education. But what does it mean? STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Looking at it like that, it doesn't sound particularly interesting. But if you take a closer look at each subject, you'll see that they're actually far more interesting than most people realise. Most people, when asked what they think science is, will picture an old man in a lab, surrounded by test tubes, with a microscope and a poster of the periodic table. This can be accurate, but science is a much broader subject and covers lots of fascinating other topics as well. Have you ever used one of these? When you've got a bad cold, have you ever taken any of this? Do you wear these? Or these? Well, a scientist was involved in the creation of all of these items. From figuring out how to make the correct formula for the ink in this, to what soothes your throat in this, and making fibres for the creation of this, or the composite materials to make these. What about animals? Do you like animals? Science covers the study of animals. For example, an ichthyologist specialises in studying fish like salmon, swordfish, or eels. An ornithologist studies birds such as robins, penguins, ravens, or eagles. A mammologist researches mammals like cats, dogs, bears, dolphins, monkeys, and lions. That's not all. Science also covers other important topics such as dendrology, climate change, environmental science, meteorology, earthquakes, volcanoes, and pollution reduction. And it's not just what's on our planet. Science also covers what's happening in space. Subjects like astronomy, astrophysics, astrobotany, as well as rocket science and solar and galactic astronomy. So you can see that there are many topics that science covers. Technology is fascinating. It's everywhere in our lives. Your mobile or cell phone, your laptop or PC. These are obvious technological advancements we're aware of. However, think about some of the other technological advancements of everyday items in our lives that we take for granted. Washing machines, microwaves, a kettle, all forms of transport, glasses, headphones, traffic lights. These are all technological advancements. In the field of medicine, technology is crucial. Take a look at all these devices that have helped medicine improve to help people get better. Hand in hand with technology is engineering. Most people still think of engineering with a narrow definition. If asked to picture an engineer, they will probably think of someone who makes bridges. In fact, engineering covers many things and is split into different categories such as chemical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, interdisciplinary engineering. Going back to your mobile or cell phone, it would have been an electrical engineer that designed the electrical circuits to make the phone work. A mechanical engineer would have been involved in the design and manufacture of aerospace and aircraft products. So forget about flying abroad if mechanical engineers didn't exist. And likewise with cars and trains, all done with the help of a mechanical engineer. And all the roads, bridges and railways for our transportation that those same cars and trains use, that's the work of civil engineers. There are also many other types of engineers such as an audio engineer, a software engineer, manufacturing engineer, biomedical and agricultural engineer to name a few. Sadly, maths is possibly the subject that people tend to dislike the most, and also the one that most people think is least applicable to their lives. However, this belief that maths is not applicable isn't true. The engineers mentioned previously use mathematical principles in the design of the various items they build, as do rocket scientists, space scientists, and climate scientists. So do programmers that make the apps to go on your computer and mobile devices, apps like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Not only that, but mathematics is fascinating. Ever heard of the Fibonacci numbers? Fibonacci numbers form sequences that can often be found in nature. There are also mathematicians that show how various mathematical formulas explain the existence of multiverses. So while something like 2x plus 3y equals z plus 2b sounds like it would send you to sleep, what if someone told you that by solving this equation, it could open the door to another universe? Wouldn't that be exciting? So you can see that at first glance, these subjects may sound dull and irrelevant to you, but the truth is that without STEM, we wouldn't be living our current lifestyle. There would be no TV to watch your favourite shows, no comfortable shoes to wear, no way of communicating with friends in a different house, let alone in a different town or country, if we didn't have phones and networks and satellites to connect us. No internet, no electricity, no PCs, no computer games. Those are just luxuries. What about basic survival needs? Without science, technology, engineering and maths, we'd still be living in caves, because there would be no one who would know how to design and build a house. We would have no way of cooking that didn't involve an open fire. We would still be washing clothes in the river with no laundry detergent to wash them with. So you can see that not only is STEM interesting and covers lots of different exciting topics, but it also affects you on an everyday basis and is around you in nearly everything that you have or do.
Thank you so much for that. As you would have seen, STEM is a critical part of our everyday existence. And I just want to invite you at this time, having watched that video and having gotten a better sense of the conversation we're about to have today, to just share your questions, your comments emanating from your own viewing of that video. So we invite you now to raise hand, open mic, or type your question or comment in the chat, and let's hear from you about STEM and where you see yourself fitting into this picture. Any comments, colleagues? Participants? Questions? Just go ahead, raise your hand, looking at that list. Not seeing any comments coming in. We'll give you a few more seconds. All right. One comment coming in. I just remembered all the math I did in university. All right, that's so beautiful. Helena Rose says, was just updated with interdisciplinary engineering, learning every day. Wonderful. I'm glad you learned something from that video, Helena. Is there any other comment or question? We do have our expert presenter in the room, as well as others here who may be able to respond to your questions. So if you do have any questions, just raise your hand or just type your question in the chat. All right, it appears we're not getting any questions at this time, Jen. So I think we may just have to press on. All right, wonderful. So at this point, it is my privilege to introduce to you our guest presenter. She is Dr. Letitia Addison, and she's a proud alumna from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. She's always held a fascination for numbers and excelled in math and science subjects throughout her career, developing an affinity for the STEM fields. She had the support of her parents and teachers, and because of that support, she was able to excel. Letitia followed her passion and pursued a BSc Mathematics double major, graduating with first class honors. Her fascination with mathematical and statistical models led her to pursue an MPhil in statistics and a PhD in mathematics. Concurrently, she fulfilled her lifelong dream, lecturing tertiary level students for over a decade and gaining a postgraduate certificate in university teaching and learning. Letitia also leads statistical consulting and research as a project officer at the University of the West Indies, at the University Office of Planning. And she holds various technical and advisory roles both regionally and internationally. She's deeply involved in statistics and data science outreach, serving as the first woman in data science out of Trinidad and Tobago ambassador, affiliated with Stanford University. She's committed to empowering young women and girls in the STEM field, hence her being with us today, and to pursue all of her dreams. Her mantra, anything is possible with him who believes. Mark 9:23. She invites others to break barriers and become trailblazers. Beyond academia, Letitia is a proud Trini to the bone. Let me say that again, Trini to the bone. She enjoys spending time with family and friends. She has interest in makeup artistry, fitness, volunteering, and mentoring our future leaders to achieve their highest potential. Ladies, gentlemen, if you are here, please use your reactions button to give her a virtual applause as we make her welcome to present you this morning. Dr. Letitia Addison.
Thank you so much, Jeanette, for that warm welcome, and for everyone who's in the room. I'm really grateful that you are here, and I'm very happy to be here to speak with you all today and give you some insights into my journey. I'm still very overwhelmed by the fact that I'm actually here giving you context to my journey, because I feel like I've been in so many of these past seminars and workshops watching other people do this very thing. So I'm really happy to be able to share my insights. So thank you for this invitation. Let me share my screen, and I will jump right into my journey. So today I would like to give you an overview of what it means to me to be able to break barriers in STEM and, of course, STEAM fields with my experience in the arena. As the presenter said, for most people, I know my name is a challenge. So I usually say that the second T is like a C. So my name is Leticia. So you can feel free to call me Leticia. So I just wanted to start with a little bit of a fun fact. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but it's an interesting fact that we could consider that roughly 55% of university graduates on average across countries, according to the Global Gender Gap Report, women account for 55%. And of course, only 2/3 of this pool usually pursue STEM-related careers. In terms of globally, in professional fields such as data science, 15 to 22% of them are female. So it's really interesting to see the dynamics when it comes to gender in this field. And of course, we have a revolution currently that is actually overturning some of these as we speak, and I hope to be one of the ambassadors for that as well. So of course, in terms of girls in ICT in 2023, it's really important for girls and young women in particular to thrive in STEM, as we saw in the video earlier, and of course STEAM, as they expanded it to the arts as well. So it's not just science fields, but it's also arts. And it's important that we acquire skills. We are in a digital age, the fourth industrial digital revolution. We have so much going on with respect to AI, ChatGPT, and all of these things. So we need to become ICT users and, of course, creators in the digital world. So, of course, before we even run, we have to walk, right? So we have to figure out how do we do that. And in terms of STEM and STEAM, my job today is to really kind of give you a context as to how I was able to navigate that into my career, because it just goes beyond the school subjects that we would have actually learned. And for me, right currently, I feel very excited about the possibilities because we are able to actually use these areas to solve challenges and the problems that we face as, globally. So, as I said, these are my goals. I want to share with you my personal journey and experiences as a woman in STEM for many years. And of course, I really hope to inspire, encourage, motivate girls and women to pursue their passion in STEM fields. Now, of course, it's going to be a little bit biased because I am a huge proponent for mathematics and statistics. So I know some of us may fear those areas, but before we even get to digital things, computer science, and all of these things, we had to have some kind of foundation in math, especially. So this is really a guide to my journey and some of the ways I will let you know how I navigated the pathway in my career, some of the challenges and lessons learned, and then the opportunities we have in our CARICOM region, which is very dear to me. So as our chair mentioned earlier, this is just a snapshot of a high-level view. People usually say I'm a woman of many hats. So I am a project officer currently. I'm a statistician at the UE campus, St. Augustine campus here in Trinidad. And I'm also a lecturer in various math and statistics courses. Simultaneously, I hold the role as a woman in data science ambassador for Trinidad and Tobago, and I have a lot of research interests. So I will actually go delve a little bit more into each of these in a little bit. And I have other interests as well. I mean, it's not all work and no play. I try my best. So I'm involved in reading, health and fitness. I am also fun fact, as I mentioned earlier to someone, I am also a makeup artist on the side. So it's not just academics. I try to do other creative areas to, expand my horizons. And I really just want to create a positive change in the world in my neck of the woods, so to speak. So to give you an idea of my personal journey as to the overall context of who I am, childhood to secondary, I would say I really developed an interest and love for mathematics at an early age. I can remember when I was very small, one of my relatives, I believe it's my grandmother, on my father's side, gifted me an abacus. If any of you all have ever heard of one of the ancient math tools for counting. And I was so fascinated. I always remember it was so colorful. It was very fascinating. It helped me to count in school. And my parents were very, very supportive of that journey. My parents and my sister realized that I would take out things from my mother's cupboard and be counting the pots and pans. I would be teaching my stuffed toys on the board. And the board was actually her door. I would take chalk and write on the board. So I was doing this all throughout primary school. And I recognized I really loved math. Now, at the same time, I found there were parts of math that could be challenging, but I loved being able to solve something. It made me feel happy. I felt like I made a difference. So when I went into secondary school here in Trinidad, I pursued math and science subjects at CXE. At that time, it was CXE. I know now it's called CSEC. And I did math, physics, chemistry, biology, Spanish, all of these different things. And then at the A level, well, now it's called CAPE, I did math, further math, physics. So I think you'll get any sense here that I really loved math. And I mean, it was interesting for me because initially I would say because I was part of an all-girls school in both schools, I went to an all-girl primary school and an all-girl secondary school. There wasn't much of a challenge when it came to stereotypes about being in a more what we call male-dominated field, or what boys would usually do. So I had no real perception of that until I think I came out of that into the university level, in the university context. So back then I was just doing my thing, doing math. Right? I do remember when I went into my A-level class and I studied statistics for the first time, because at that time we didn't do statistics prior to Form 6. I did not like statistics at all, which was interesting. At first, I found it was difficult. I was trying to understand these probabilities and how to calculate them. So it's really something to see the journey I took after that to really be able to love statistics, which is actually really like my right hand now, so to speak. So from then on, I decided at UE I would actually pursue a degree in math. This didn't come, I wouldn't say it didn't come easily. I got certain comments. People would say, at the time I was a scholarship winner for mathematics. So they would say, why don't you do engineering? Why don't you do medicine? And for some reason, as I said, I always loved math and I always somehow wanted to teach math. There was even actuarial science. People were like, why don't you do actuarial science? So for me, I decided to follow my dream and I went into the Faculty of Science and Technology, a very proud alumna of that faculty. And I pursued a BSc in mathematics, which probably did not seem fancy to most people, but it was really the beginning of a journey for me that actually was really, as I said, a lifelong dream. And there I did a first degree in mathematics double major, which means that I did most of the math courses at the time. And that involves some statistics courses and a couple of computer science courses, which I would tell you as well was a bit challenging at first because I did not do programming at high school level. So it was very new to me. I was writing in code. I spent sometimes most of the night sitting down trying to get my code to run in year one. So I remember fun times. But that actually really built up a lot of skill in me. And that was the turning point for me where I recognized I was in an arena where there were more boys than girls. So I left the high school environment, which was mostly girls, and I came into this arena that was very male dominated. My experience at the time was not a bad one. I would say I met a lot of very smart boys who actually inspired me more, because at times where I had difficulties, they were able to assist. And when they had difficulties, and I was able to assist. So I felt like that in itself was really helpful. And then following this, I mean, I was happy to go through my undergraduate degree, you know, getting my first degree in math in the double major. And then at that point in time, I actually wanted to teach in secondary school. But I decided to put that on hold, and I went on to pursue a master's in statistics, a master of philosophy, which is a little bit different from an MSc, which is a master of science, where I would have been doing what I would call a mini PhD, so to speak. It was like a research master's. And there I felt like I was starting to get the sense of, wow, you know, it's really interesting to now be in quite, because the department I was in at the time, mostly male lecturers, a couple female lecturers, but you started to realize, how do I navigate this? So I will tell you a little bit about that later down in terms of like what challenges I faced, but this was really my pathway. And of course, when I did the master's in statistics, now I felt compelled to actually continue my studies. At the time, I was also lecturing, and I was a teaching assistant and instructor. And then I decided to do my PhD in math because I always loved mathematical modeling. And it also involves statistical modeling as well. And I will give you a context to one of those interesting projects that I did. So over that time, during my master's and my PhD, I was able to be lecturer as well as basically a researcher. And most of my collaborations were with males in the arena. So I was also a Math Help Center coordinator. And more recently, when I graduated my PhD in 2019, I was able to move into a professional space. Now I am still lecturing, still teaching, as you know that I love that as well. And I was able to move into a project officer role, which you know about me currently, which is really a statistician. And people never really understood what the University Office of Planning does. I usually ask my students, do you all know what we do here? And they have no idea. So really and truly, it's actually a central office at the entire overall for the entire university, where we look at surveys for staff and student satisfaction surveys. We look at institutional research, strategic planning, and I'm responsible for building statistical models for higher education. So it's really very interesting to go from like just teaching to interprofessional space. And alongside these roles, I have also been involved in some additional advisory and technical roles. I'm a Woman in Data Science Ambassador, which is really a mentorship role and a community-based role for Trinidad, aligned with the Stanford Women in Data Science Worldwide community. And we actually support data challenges, and we encourage persons, especially women and girls, to actually excel and upskill to be able to understand what it's like to take a data set and actually predict something from it for some social impact. And I have other roles as well, which align with these things, where I like to volunteer. I really like to mentor in my space, because I feel like I felt a little isolated at the time when there were more males than females in my arena. So now I try to give back, where I give support to females to know you can come to me if you need guidance on this journey, because I've been through the ups and downs of having a passion, but also navigating the social spaces where that is concerned. So this is just some of the snapshots of my life so far. I would say I'm so grateful to God for this journey. I never expected to be in an open space like this. I was always a little bit shy in school. I always wanted to just blend in into the wall wherever I was. And I never expected to have this this enthusiasm to be in an arena where I'm just really trying to bring a community together in that way. So it's really it's very, very rewarding for me so far, despite any challenges I've faced. And to give you, so I don't want to be too overly technical to scare anybody with equations today, but I'll just give you a very high level overview of some of the things that I've done. So in my field, I apply my knowledge to various areas that are related to mathematics and statistics and also involve computer science, because in my arena as a statistician, I have to use a lot of computer programs to be able to generate statistical results. So there is statistics that I'm involved in. I'm also data science roles in terms of understanding the trends in data, mathematical modeling, probability models. AI in higher education is something that I've been recently delving into, of course, with the advent, as we said, of ChatGPT, Bing AI, and all of these tools. And climate change is one that this has totally blown me away. I've just fallen into the climate change projects within the last few years, and I've been quite passionate about these collaborations and how we could use data to be able to give insights into various problems we face, particularly in our region. So this is kind of an idea of, no, this is not my meme. This is actually, I think this circulates a lot online. So I wanted to show something familiar to most, where I use data to tell a story. So if you wanted to think about it in a pictorial sense, so we start at the top where the data looks like that, unsorted and very haphazard. And then we want it to be something in the end where it's explained with a story, and then it's useful, gives some actionable, useful insights. And that's really just what my dream to actually give back. So how I apply STEM, like in terms of my job, it's actually an intersection of many areas. And for a lot of you who are hearing these buzzwords of AI, machine learning, data science, and these things, it's really an intersection of a lot of different fields: mathematics and statistics, computer science, and also the business and domain knowledge. So of course, I have to understand the problem from the business perspective, like for instance, at the university, what challenges the students face, staff face, and what comes out of the surveys in terms of what they say, and of course in other problems as I go along. So it really is important for decision making. And in terms of how I make an impact, I really use this to leverage a lot of networking and support. So I also need support. So in addition to me giving support, I also reach out for support in other ways as well, through different communities. I collaborate quite a bit with other UWI campuses and international universities as well, because I always feel like I never stop learning. It's consistent learning for me as I go along. And I really appreciate that idea of how this role has led me into that. So I felt like the professional space actually made me a lot more confident in opening up these avenues to be able to make these connections. So I just want to give you a quick context, as I said, a high level context, no sorts of equations, but just to give you an idea of some of the projects I've been involved in, so you can kind of understand what I really do and what I'm passionate about. So one of the things is to include STEM education, not only in just mathematics and statistics, but also in terms of climate change, which is a pertinent problem. And we know the youth are quite worried about global warming. So we could find STEM as a tool to be able to actually inspire solutions for sustainable development. So very recently in 2022, I was involved in a climate change data challenge. This is a project that involved AI applications for climate issues in the OECS region. And my team placed first in this data challenge, where we were able to build a prototype. I'll show you a snapshot of how that looks, to be able to predict flood risk in various Caribbean countries, to give them an idea of where this flood might occur, the month, the temperature, the time, so they can have these insights beforehand, so they can know how to plan for various agencies. And this is how this tool looked in terms of the interface. So of course, as I said, the intersection of ICT is very important, because I can actually have the framework in a statistic sense, but then we have to actually put this out to an end user who would actually need to use a tool to be able to get these insights. So the tool itself classified the predicted risk of the natural disaster by, as I said, the different variables. We had temperature, we had rainfall, we looked at previous natural disasters in those areas, and then we were able to give a kind of a context as to what's going to occur in these specific countries. You had graphs in terms of trends, etc. So it's really a nice idea as to how we can use mathematics and statistics integrated with a computer database or a computer tool to be able to actually analyze these results. In addition to this, I was also part of a student retention project at the UE here, and we were able to build a similar tool to predict the risk of student dropouts at the UE St. Augustine campus based on different demographics of students, to be able to give a gauge to administrators in terms of if the students in a specific faculty, a specific degree program, what is their risk based on certain factors like their age, their gender, in terms of even their GPA, etc. And of course, this was the nice tool, a snapshot of the interface as well. And then this is this is actually one of my most fun projects in terms of my PhD, being able to use biological models such as prey predator models for investments. So in fact, I think some of you, if you're familiar with Shark Tank and you have these investors sitting there and you have people pitching ideas, it's actually, I've created a mathematical model using the idea of what occurs in nature based on how the populations of predator and prey change over time with the dynamics of how they interact, and apply that to human behavior in terms of investor behavior, because sharks or shark investors act like actual sharks. And in that way, I was able to apply to a lot of other investment type models like the stock market, venture capital, and see over time how that changed. And I just gave you a little bit of what that looks like in terms of a graph based on what happens in nature with rabbits and wolves. So we were looking at those different trends and interactions to give us some sort of insight. And I also collaborated with persons in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering here at the St. Augustine campus, looking at electric vehicle charging behavior. And we looked at how a simulated model, meaning values that weren't actual real values, but it's simulated based on behaviors in the US, and how charging would look in the US and how we could apply it to our country, since we are now on the trend of using electric vehicles. And we wanted to get an insight based on those graphical trends by charging, in terms of if you come home from work and you want to charge your car and everybody else wants to charge at the same time, what sort of load that would put on the system and how often that will happen during the week. And that's really important because persons in terms of the electric companies and these things will want to know what load, what that puts on the grid, what strain that puts on the grid. So I was able to use a probability model based on those trends and give some insight into how that would look. And for persons who are more into research-based idea and they want to learn more about these projects, you could always visit my Google Scholar page and you could actually read the full papers on each of these models that I just mentioned. So that just gives you a quick high-level snapshot. I hope that was not too much to take in. But that's what I have been doing. I have been involved in interdisciplinary projects that actually show how we can use what I have learned in theory to put it into practice. And especially even as a lecturer, what I also do is I teach my students how to take a data set, learning the theory about the statistics behind it, and then put it into practice to have practical applications for understanding. So throughout all of this, I probably should share now, how did I succeed, my skills and strengths? I mean, it hasn't been easy. I would say logical thinking, I put these skills that come into like just the analytical part of things, with problem solving, creativity, communication, collaboration, mentorship, even leadership. But the one I put at the end is actually probably one of the most important ones I've learned over time in terms of emotional self-regulation, because it's a lot coming at you. And for me in this arena, there's a lot to do and a lot you feel like you have to live up to. So I've had to always pace myself with how many projects I have at the time and how I could spend my time managing this, because I'm only one person. Sometimes I say I wish I had a twin so I could do more than I want to at this point, but I'm only one person. So that's what I did in terms of succeeding over this journey. And of course, always reaching out for help. I think I learned over time, and I've been in UE so long, I've realized today I've been on the UE campus for more time than primary school and secondary school combined, interestingly enough. And I've realized that reaching out for help has been really key to my success as well, because getting other insights is really important. in that, I have also had some challenges, and the lessons I've learned from those challenges, like there are things like imposter syndrome. Do I know enough? There were times I've gone through that quite a bit in my research or my graduate degrees, and even now. At the time, I felt like I had a lack of support. Back then, data science and these extra courses online and all of these, short courses and these things weren't available. So I actually had to go and learn statistical software on my own. I had to learn R on my own. There was SPSS I had to learn on my own. So I did everything by myself at that point until more formal training came up. Gender bias, could I excel in a male-dominated field? I felt very stressed about that at a point in time. At times, it still runs through my mind because I think we still have a trend in terms of male domination in certain areas. So there's still an underlying, there's still an undercurrent there. And then lack of resources at certain points, career opportunities, you're not exactly sure if you will actually get aligned to the specific path that you want at that point in time. So going through my journey, I felt like that there was sometimes challenges in that way. And then but balancing work and life. Interestingly enough, I went through burnout in 2021. First time I've ever gone through burnout and recognized how important it is to take stock of what you're doing. I mean, you want to do valuable work, but you also have to be healthy at the same time. So mental health, physical health, spiritual health is really important. So just to give you a context of the lesson I learned with all of this is really to develop my emotional intelligence, which I have done through all these experiences, which really gave me a sense of resiliency, perseverance, self-confidence, and how important it is for self-care. That's why I also have other activities, as I said, doing makeup artistry on the side. I just enrolled myself in an interior design course as well. So having other things to do to be able to stay healthy and, understand that it's not just about work. So to kind of start to close off what we were talking about, really and truly breaking barriers in STEM is really also not only about the creativity, but the diversity, solving the real world problems, finding innovative ways to solve problems, pushing boundaries of what's possible, which I like to do, and creating a more inclusive and, equitable society that values contributions of all. And this is just for me to also say that even with diversity and inclusion, I mean, while I'm a female in the arena, I would say that math is not just for girls or for boys separately, it's for everyone. But I think I would like girls to break down those gender barriers in terms of STEM, to create a more diverse, inclusive world in terms of what we have to offer. And of course, boys, I mean, I would always say it has been male dominated for a while, but it's really, really beneficial to have that insight as well, to have a more balanced approach. So it's for everyone. So my advice specifically to the women and the girls interested in STEM or STEAM related, because the arts have actually now been really important in terms of the creativity. Look at graphic design and these things is really starting to build more into the STEM area to become STEAM. You really should try to develop your hard and soft skills. So it's not just about the technical skills, the programming skills, the math skills. You also think about communication. I would say in the current job that I'm in now, I think I learned a lot more about communication, about presenting, about reaching out to others, collaborating, a lot of teamwork I do. So it's really about understanding how to develop those skills, because you will need them aside from the technical knowledge. Pursue online courses. I have pursued a few of these in terms of data science and other interesting areas that I felt like would enhance me in terms of leadership, mentorship, etc. So I think upskilling is really key. Coursera, edX, Udemy have a lot of great courses. Volunteering as well. I like to give back my time to others. I think that's super important. We are here to help and to be of service, and I think that actually is very rewarding for me, and I think everyone should always really take that seriously and be well-rounded. I mean, have a sport, play a sport, have a hobby, improve your spiritual life, which is super important to me as well, and it's stay humble, be a lifelong learner. We don't know everything, and there's always more to know. So in conclusion, I would like to say, I feel like I've spoken quite a life story there, but the future is really bright. For CARICOM girls, I would say it's a revolution I'm in right now, and I would always implore that you should do your part to make your region and your world a better place. So I thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions, and you could feel free to contact me via email or connect with me on LinkedIn. So Chair, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Addison. Thank you, Leticia. Quite a mouthful, and I am sure others of us, like I am, are still just left wondering, how is it that you've managed to accomplish so much in such a short span of time? We have noted your passion that seems to be driving you and your commitment to holistic development. Those two things, I believe, were themes coming throughout the entire presentation. But I'm sure our attendees, participants, they have their own comments and questions that they'd like to ask. I have a few, but I just want to invite those of us who would have any questions. I'm looking at the participants list. If you do have a question, just raise your hand and we'll acknowledge you and you'll get to ask your question. You're also free to drop your question in the chat and I'll just check now to see if there are any questions. All right, there are a few comments, but I'm not seeing any questions yet. So I'm gonna go and ask that very first question. I was very interested in the work you said you've been doing with AI. And I wanted to find out if you've identified any opportunities for females to break barriers in the field of AI in this region. If that's consideration what is part of your experience and what the answer would be.
I would say, yeah, that's a really good question. And it's really an emerging field for us. I would say, I mean, technically speaking, AI has been around quite a long time because it really is just using these, algorithms and these procedures to do things. I mean, we've created quite a buzzword with it now, and we use it more, and we feel like it's going to replace us in some way. But for females, I would say a lot of it comes into, if you even look into like data science fields that actually use AI, a lot of jobs right now are actually asking for data science. They call it the sexiest job of the 21st century in an article. And a lot of females are going towards that arena. For instance, I've taught students who have done probability and statistics at the university level. Some of them have done actuarial science first degrees, but they have gone on to do like a master's in data science, and they have actually been able to get into careers in data science, the data science realm. So I would say in our region now, the revolution has come to us where it's opened up quite a bit. And I think females, at least I've really understood this more this year in terms of being an ambassador for data science, where I was able to kind of pull on females in my region and say, let's have you talk about your area and really learn that they're actually doing these things in little niches and we probably don't know. So it's actually there. The undercurrent is there, is to really kind of put it in the forefront. So I think in terms of climate change, particularly, there's a lot of data sets online, a lot of data to be analyzed, and females could play a part in jumping into those things, being involved in projects, etc. It's really vast, even education as well. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for it, for females.
Thank you so much. There's a question coming from Nicole Cole, and she's asking, why do you think only 22% of women graduating from university pursue STEM careers? What accounts for that?
Okay, so I would probably say from my perspective, even though STEM is really dear to my heart, it could be challenging at times. And sometimes people feel like, I don't know if I could do this. I will tell you from my personal experience, when I did computer science in year 1, and there were so many boys who had this at the tip of their fingers, and I felt like I was struggling a little bit. And it's intimidating. You tend to feel like, how would I be able? So there's a lot of things in the media too as well. Whatever we absorb tends to make us feel like we can't do it. And there's the traditional side of things as well. There's also a pressure at a certain age to, settle down, to have all these other responsibilities. And so sometimes that makes it harder to continue along that path. So it's really a lot that females face when it comes to these things. They may start it, they may not continue, they may have other things come up, which is okay, that's fine. But it's just like that's what happens socially, I believe.
for that. Our second question comes from Eston Cohen. She's asking, how can we get more females with disabilities in STEM fields? If there's still a lack of accessibility in many places.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Eston. I mean, I don't have a set answer for that currently, but I would say that the good thing about it is that with the advent of these AI tools, some of these things may make it easier to be able to assist in terms of disabilities. But I do believe, especially in terms of the UE campus as well, that we have made a lot more provisions. We have had a couple graduates in STEM who had disabilities and were able to get first-class honors and all of these things. So it is possible. I know it's a bit challenging, but it is possible, and the conversation is there. So it's actually, I think more countries are becoming more proactive about the needs of people with disabilities. So thank you for that question. It's really something that I think about as well.
So I'm gonna ask Jennifer Britton to ask her question now. She's had her hand up for a little while. So Jennifer, go ahead.
Thanks, Jeanette. I didn't want to.
All right. So
Sorry, wrong microphone. I didn't want to hold up the conversation, but I wanted to ask, I'm sure people have a lot of burning questions because I saw things asking about whether there were vacancies, I guess, in your section, Letitia, you made it so interesting. But I wanted to ask a different type of question in the sense that you mentioned being able to solve real world problems. And you hear so many people today saying, I don't look at the news, and particularly young people. So how would you, and I'm thinking from a policy perspective and government and all of that, how would you provide, what would you suggest to provide a space for us to bring those real world problems into the conversation so that persons can get attuned and want to enter into the exciting world of data science, analytics, mathematics that you've just taken us through?
Oh, yes, no, that's an interesting question. And in fact, I'm glad that you asked that, because for a long time, I mean, I have been in my own little niche, as I call it, you know, doing what I have been doing in terms of my work, etc. And I was able to expand that horizon when I joined the Women in Data Science program. In terms of, I actually participated in the Data Challenge before I became an ambassador. And why I became ambassador was because the community aspect was really important. Because, you know, we sit there in a classroom and we just learn things on a board and then we are pushed into the working world. But in terms of that aspect of actually being able to have a data challenge, I was based on a social impact problem, and I was put into a team and I had to collaborate. So it was like a real life experience inside there. And we had both females and males on the team. And then from that, I thought, wow, look at this. I mean, I'm able to converse with them about the challenges in terms of actually analyzing the data set. And then we could converse about what this means, as you mentioned, in terms of policy, because a lot of the times at school, we don't really know how this is going to impact in the real world. So in that sense, to me, I recognize how important it is to build communities. And this is something that I've been trying to do, especially in my own neck of the woods, is to build a community where students, persons, anybody interested in the area, and even just in data in general, would be able to say, okay, what does it look like to analyze a data set and give some prediction about what can happen? And that's what building these kinds of communities does, you know, building a community type space, be it online or in person, to actually have persons in diverse fields come in and collaborate with each other. And I think that's super important for us, especially in the Caribbean.
Thank you for that. I think my final question is coming off the heels of community, and that is about your Women in Data Science initiative or project. I note that you said that this is situated in Trinidad. That's the Trinidad and Tobago. That's your context.
Yes.
Are there other territories, countries, regions that are involved in this Women in Data Science? And in the Caribbean especially, if you are aware, just let us know what other countries may or participants access some of these kinds of initiatives.
Right, definitely. So, I mean, there are whole, I would say, in addition to the Women in Data Science, we have a lot of different niches of like Google Women Tech Makers, and we have little groups of, you know, different women involved in IT related fields. this Women in Data Science initiative really was aligned to Stanford University's idea of having a global organization and in different countries. So even though I am the representative ambassador for Trinidad, it's actually, I can actually pull on teams from different countries to be able to represent and to be able to participate in data challenges. And actually, we have a lot of videos on YouTube with featuring outstanding women data scientists, both in Trinidad and internationally. We had quite a nice fireside chat in March this year. And it's really a global, so even though I'm representing Trinidad, it's more of a global space where in different countries you have ambassadors and we organize different activities, be it in person or virtually, to be able to kind of build that community. I was the first ambassador for Trinidad currently, and we're kind of expanding the team. And in terms of the region, I would like to inspire others in other countries in the Caribbean region to be able to participate, to join, and to be able to represent the region in that way. Because I think that community aspect has been, it has, personally speaking, it has really built a lot more confidence in me than I ever had before. Even in just making mistakes and having others say, you know what, no, let's do it this way instead. You know, it's really comforting when you have a kind of a support mechanism. So I think it's global and it's continuing to grow, so persons could participate. And I just wanted to let you all know the new cycle for ambassadors is actually currently going on. So if anybody else from any other Caribbean islands would like to represent your country as an ambassador for Women in Data Science, you could feel free to do so. If you need to reach out to me, I could give you any information. And the sky's the limit. You know, I would like to see more women involved in this way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, participants, there you have it. Breaking barriers in STEM require holistic development and holistic health, including passion, collaboration, community, continuous learning, and emotional intelligence. I think these are the themes coming out of today's presentation. And I'm just going to turn over to Jennifer Britton, who will give us the closing remarks and probably, I think, to the vote of thanks as we move into this last segment of our presentation. Thank you so much, Dr. Addison, and thank you, participants, for an engaging session.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jeanette and Dr. Addison. I hope we can call you Letitia if you don't mind.
Leticia,
Thank
yeah,
you
that's
so
fine.
much. I think that as you were speaking, my brain was just saying, wow, wow, wow. And I think that the comments from the participants who were supporting what my brain was firing off. So I want to start by thanking you. I think we probably missed you in March of this year, but this has been an excellent reconnecting in this forum to talk about all the exciting things that you do.
I actually presented
yes,
this year.
I think I stepped out of the room. So
yes.
I thank you so much for bringing freshness and energy and everything to the complex discussion on data science. And I hope that we can continue to have you work with the partnership as we move forward in policy and looking at some strategic career development for the region. I must confess that my best buddy in the Secretariat was a statistician. Totally changed my life having one lunch with her 20 years ago, and we are still friends. She couldn't make it today because today is they're doing some observances for Caribbean Statistics Day, but I will certainly link you up with some of the other members of the team. She is demitted office now, but I'll link you up with some of the other members of the team who are just as energized and passionate about it as you are. Thank you for all the rich material, the research, and the open sharing of your experience. I was particularly touched and happy that you talked about things like the isolation and the imposter syndrome, which are very real for us as women and young girls, and something that we have to paddle through almost as we choose whatever career. Jeanette, strong serving member of the partnership, as I've said, thank you so much for taking time to moderate this session. I know that you had a lot of things to add as well, perhaps, but the time perhaps did not permit, but thank you for you doing your usual stellar job. I'd like to thank all the persons who came and stayed with us, because it's not easy to have a lunchtime session. I hope this was good food for thought, that you were able to have some lunch, or that you'd have lunch as you leave the session, we always have to thank the persons who are the wind beneath our wings, Utica, who does all the flyers and sending out everything to you and reminding you, the University of the West Indies, which continues to share their Zoom platform with us and our own internal sections, IIS, etc. And I thank everybody. If I've forgotten anybody, please forgive me. It's all my fault. But I wanted to say we were few in the room, but we continue to post the presentations on our website. And so a wider audience can go and interface with them and use the material. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from more and more people, Letitia, as they interface with what you shared with us today. We try now to, the audience we expected and anticipated was supposed to be between 13 and 29. So we try to share some tips every time we meet. So Utica is going to be sharing them in the chat room. Please feel free to use them and share them with persons who you think they may be useful for. And we continue to try to engage students and schools in particular. So if anybody has any ideas, please shoot them to me and Utica and any member of the partnership so that we can pull more and more schools and young learners into the space to give them information as to what is possible and what is already there, and that they're mentors in the space and persons that they can turn to. So please, let's keep this going. We do have probably about 4 or 5 more weeks of Fridays, and I encourage everybody in the room today to come back and join us and certainly share the news that we are meeting in this way to talk about careers that are important in STEM and STEAM for CARICOM until the 24th of November. So I thank all of you again. Thank you for sharing this time with us, and we look forward to you joining us next week, Friday, same time, 12 o'clock Guyana time, for another short informative session on some aspect of STEAM and STEM careers. Thank you so much, everyone. And Letitia, for sure, you'll be hearing from me and several others. So you've now opened another window of work for yourself. Thank you ever so much.
No problem at all.
Good. Thank you ever so much, everyone, and have a good, safe weekend. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.